Welcome back to the Privacy Report, where we peel back the layers of digital security so you can stay informed and protected. We spend a lot of time focused on, the exciting stuff, encrypted chat apps, the latest zero-day exploits, next-gen antivirus. But today, we are going deep into the fundamental, and I think often overlooked, defenders of your network, firewalls.
They really are. These are security tools that basically everyone uses, but so few people truly understand how they're supposed to work together. And before we get into how these quiet workhorses operate, just a quick reminder that you can always keep up with our research and our tips by subscribing to the email newsletter. Just head over to theprivacyreport.net to sign up.
So firewalls, they're sort of the digital bouncers, right? Deciding what traffic gets into your network and what gets bounced at the door. What we want to do today is really cut through the confusion. We need to unpack the critical differences between the two main categories, hardware and software firewalls. And explain why understanding this isn't just an abstract thing for IT departments anymore. It's become a practical necessity for every single person.
It absolutely has. It really boils down to recognizing you have two very different battlefields to defend. You have the outer gate, that's the network connection itself, and then you have the inner sanctum, which is your individual device. And if you only defend one of those, you're leaving a massive vulnerability wide open.
Okay, let's unpack that core concept then. Layered defense. When people hear firewall, they usually just think of one thing. But we're talking about two distinct entities. One is physical, one is software. What's the fundamental security philosophy that says we absolutely have to run both?
The philosophy is pretty simple. It's defense in depth. You have to assume that any single layer of your defense can and probably will fail at some point. So hardware and software firewalls, they operate at complementary points of failure.
Yeah.
The hardware one is concerned with the network perimeter. It's looking at IP addresses, ports, filtering massive streams of external traffic.
Right, the network as a whole.
Exactly. Whereas the software firewall is focused on the integrity of the individual process running on your laptop or your phone. It sees what the hardware firewall cannot see. Which specific application is asking for network access? So if a threat gets past that perimeter, the device-level firewall is your crucial second chance.
That makes the layered approach sound mandatory, not optional at all. But let me push back with a common question we get. If I just spent serious money on a top-tier enterprise-grade hardware firewall, why wouldn't I disable the free software firewall built into Windows or Mac OS to, maximize my PC's performance? Isn't that just duplicating effort?
That is the perfect question. And the answer, really, it reveals the limitations of just the hardware approach. Let's start with the big guy, the hardware firewall, or HWF.
Okay, so lay out the definition for us.
The HWF is a standalone physical device, a box that sits strategically between your modem and everything else. It's the absolute first line of defense. It sees all incoming and outgoing packets before they even hit your router.
So it's the official border agent for the entire house. It inspects every passport before anyone can step foot inside.
Precisely. Its function is to inspect that traffic and enforce network-wide policies. It blocks malicious packets, known exploits, suspicious connections, system-wide. And because it's a dedicated piece of hardware, it gives you extremely consistent protection, and this is crucial. It offloads all that intensive processing.
The scrutinizing of millions of packets.
Exactly. It offloads that from your individual computers and phones.
And that offloading benefit is massive. It means your workstation isn't burning CPU cycles on security filtering, it's just focused on running your apps. But you mentioned that modern hardware firewalls are doing more than just simple filtering. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, this is where the depth comes in.
Yeah.
Modern HWFs use advanced techniques like deep packet inspection, or DPI. This goes way beyond the traditional stateful packet inspection, or SPI. SPI just checks if an incoming packet is part of a session you started. DPI, however, actually digs into the content of the packets, even encrypted ones. It's looking for malicious behaviors or protocols that are trying to cloak themselves.
Wait, hold on. I thought encrypted traffic was impossible to inspect without breaking the encryption. How does a firewall inspect a supposedly secure SSL session?
It looks for behavioral anomalies. So, for example, if a piece of malware uses an HTTPS session, but it's communicating with, let's say, highly unusual connection patterns, or using ports that are totally non-standard for that protocol, DPI can flag that session as potentially compromised, and then it can just terminate it immediately, even if the packet header looks legitimate.
That's a crucial distinction because so many modern threats are adept at hiding inside those encrypted channels.
Absolutely. And advanced hardware firewalls also incorporate threat intelligence feeds. They're real-time updates, lists of millions of known bad IP addresses, malicious domains, signatures of botnet servers. The HWF just blocks traffic to and from those addresses instantly for every single device on your network.
And for listeners looking at specific examples, we're talking about things like a high-end appliance running pfSense Plus, which gives you that complete customizable control, or even commercial options like the Ubiquiti Unify Security Gateway. That's really popular for small offices that need robust filtering without all the enterprise complexity.
That's the strength of the HWF, strong system-wide protection. But here's its fundamental weakness, which brings us back to your performance question. The hardware firewall is blind to internal threats and application behavior. If a malicious application is already on your device, maybe you downloaded a bad file or a hacker got in using a VPN, the HWF assumes traffic from your device is legitimate.
So the HWF protected the front door, but once the burglar is inside and trying to send information out, the HWF just says, oh, that's a resident, everything's fine.
Precisely. It protects the gate, but it doesn't police the residents, which means we need that personal bodyguard.
Yeah.
The software firewall, or SWF.
And this is the tool most people already have running, right? Often enabled by default in their operating system. How does the SWF fill that visibility gap that the hardware firewall leaves?
So the SWF runs directly on the device, the computer, the server, the smartphone. It sees every single process running on that machine. Its control level is completely granular. It isn't looking at the network connection, it's looking at the application layer.
So the hardware firewall says, is traffic allowed on port 443? But the software firewall asks, is the Chrome browser allowed to use port 443? And is this weird application called Background Utility X allowed to connect to this server in Estonia?
That hyper-focused process-level permissioning is its killer feature. And it's absolutely critical for controlling outbound traffic. This is the ultimate answer to why you must run both. If that Background Utility X is spyware trying to phone home with your passwords, the HWF, seeing that traffic come from your legitimate IP, is probably going to pass it. The SWF, however, identifies that specific malicious process and blocks its outgoing request.
That's a huge privacy and security benefit. We're moving beyond just blocking external attacks to preventing. I remember those days, turning on a software firewall felt like turning on a fan in your CPU. The performance hit was painful. So you're saying that's truly a relic of the past for modern machines, and the benefits of stopping unauthorized outbound traffic far outweigh any tiny performance cost.
Absolutely. The performance cost is measured in tiny fractions of a percentage point on a modern CPU. The security benefit is measured in preventing a total breach of your device. It's a necessary trade-off that barely feels like a trade-off anymore.
Okay, so now that we've established that the best practice is definitely using both, let's just synthesize the core functions one more time. Maybe using the location and the control hierarchy.
Sure. Think of it as concentric circles of defense. The hardware firewall is the outermost circle, the perimeter. It's located at your network connection and provides that system-wide policy-based filtering, often with advanced DPI.
And the software firewall is the inner circle, located right on the individual endpoint device. It provides granular, application-specific control focused on what that one application is allowed to send or receive.
And the cost difference reflects that scope. HWF appliances, they're a higher initial cost for the hardware. The SWF is often free, just included with your OS, though third-party options do exist for better visibility.
This discussion often leads people to confuse firewalls with antivirus programs, which is a critical thinking point we really need to clarify. If I'm running a state-of-the-art HWF and a meticulous SWF, have I eliminated the need for antivirus software?
No, not at all. That would be a major mistake. As we've been saying, firewalls control the flow of traffic. They are the traffic cops, the bouncers. They decide if a communication channel is allowed. Antivirus and anti-malware tools, on the other hand, they scan files and code in your hard drive. They detect malicious software that has already breached your perimeter or maybe got in through a USB drive.
So the firewall might block a connection to a known bad IP, but the antivirus is what detects the actual malicious.exe file sitting in your downloads folder.
Exactly. But here's the advanced insight. They increasingly work together. Modern HWFs rely on those threat intelligence feeds we mentioned, which are often generated by analyzing malware data collected by antivirus companies. So while they perform separate tasks, traffic control versus file inspection, their intelligence is increasingly shared, making both tools more effective.
That makes the case for layered security even stronger. So for the listener who's ready to stop being passive and start proactively improving their setup, let's outline 5 specific actionable steps based on this.
Okay. Step 1. Get an accurate network map. Identify every single device and service on your network, not just computers. Smart TVs, IoT devices, printers, these are the forgotten endpoints that have to be protected by the HWF.
Step 2. Deploy a dedicated hardware firewall at the network perimeter. Don't just rely on the minimal firewall in your ISP-provided router. Invest in an appliance that can do deep packet inspection and get threat intelligence updates.
Step 3. Confirm the software firewall is enabled on every endpoint, no matter how good your HWF is. And go beyond just enabling it. Review the default application permissions. If an app doesn't need external access, block it.
Step 4. Set up mandatory automatic firmware and rule set updates for both types of firewalls. These rule sets are the core intelligence. If they're outdated, your defense is crippled.
And finally, step 5, which is the most proactive one. Implement a monthly review of outbound traffic logs. Specifically, look for port anomalies. Look for connections from non-browser apps trying to connect on unusual ports, anything outside of the standard 80 or 443. That specific pattern is often the telltale sign of a compromised process trying to exfiltrate data.
Right, that moves you beyond just passive defense and turns the firewall into an active monitoring system. It takes vigilance, but it gives you the highest level of assurance.
And if we connect this back to the bigger picture of just managing your digital life, the key takeaway is that you have to audit your setup. Make sure you have a cohesive strategy. Don't fall into the trap of thinking one solution covers everything. You have to ask yourself, does my current setup truly cover both the big picture, the network gate, and the fine detail, the specific apps running on my phone?
Are you guarding the front door effectively? And are you also making absolutely sure your personal bodyguards are doing their job on each of your individual devices? That is the question to mull over tonight. Thank you for diving into the nuts and bolts of digital defense with us today.
My pleasure.
If you found this discussion valuable, please like and subscribe to the Privacy Report wherever you get your audio so you never miss a deep dive into keeping your data safe. Thank you for tuning in. This discussion was made with the assistance of AI.